And you're rolling.
All right, wonderful. Hi there, folks out there. I'm Alfred, and I'd like to welcome you to our third week of Comparative Witchcraft, our study group here, although it seems like it's more of a series of lectures. But I hope that a bunch of you out there, or at least some of you out there, would like to get involved with us as we go into the segment of What is Energy? That is, we are first starting with Real Energy Chapter 1 this week. And the first question is, what is energy? And the process that I'm going to go through right now is really the various definitions that were put forth in the book. And it begins with, of course, quantum mechanics, quantum theory, physics, really, what it comes down to. So this might be a little strange because physics is not my strong point. So if there's anyone out there that wants to add anything to this, feel free. But let's go down to brass tacks first. Energy itself comes from, the word energy comes from the Greek word, I believe it's pronounced energia, or energia, which actually means active work. So energy, if you are expelling energy, you are doing work. What does that mean? Well, the physics people out there say that work is anything that, well, we're going to kind of go on a bit of a spiral here, but doing active work is doing anything that expels energy. So me moving my hand right here, against the forces of friction and gravity, that would be considered work. I'm moving a piece of paper like that, just across the table. That's considered work. But let us continue on. So physics deals with a lot of things called, well, they deal with things called fields, planes almost, but to what modern New Agers would say, we have the planes of existence, or fields of existence, areas of energy in which we exist, which we live. To physics, we have different types of energy through these fields, such as electromagnetic energy, thermal energy, kinetic energy, potential energies, and all of that. So let's say exactly what they are. Kinetic energy is the energy that is, this is kinetic energy, the energy that is expelled while moving. However, say I'm going to drop this piece of paper. The potential energy is the energy that is stored right here. And right when it turns into kinetic energy, there it is released. Potential energy turns into kinetic energy. So, must be tired of hearing this if you take a physics class right now. So we'll try and move on. We have the electromagnetic energy, which is actually quite important to New Agers because electromagnetic energy tells us, tells our eyes what color is. Okay, the only bit of visible light we have are pretty much the rainbow, which red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, which are actually also the colors of the chakras, from the root chakra all the way up to the crown chakra, being red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Colors of the rainbow. But out of the realm of what we can't see, we have the gamma rays, the X-rays, the ultraviolet rays, which are down to the short wavelength, which means they're high frequency, high vibrations, much as the seventh plane of existence would be that of the goddess, which is the highest vibration of energy. And then on the low frequencies, we have the infrarays, the radar waves, the microwaves, and the radio waves. So what I'm trying to convey by throwing all this information at you right now is to say this is how, well, for lack of a better word, this is how energy is popularly referred to, scientifically, through physics. And the different forces that are involved would be that of gravity, friction, stuff like that. Is there anyone out there that might be tuning in right now that knows anything better than I about these certain subjects? Yet. Not quite sure there is, but we'll continue on to a very obvious form of energy, which actually will feel within rituals. You will see a lot of thermal energy, heat. Sometimes you might be in the middle of a circle, all of a sudden you feel a bit warmer. You might realize that all of a sudden, you know, there was a bit of a chill in the air perhaps, and all of a sudden he's like, oh no, I'm fairly comfortable now. Well, that might have been nerves, or it might have been that a lot of the energy is moving around the circle, creating heat. Thermal energy. That is the more metaphysical way of looking at thermal energy. However, thermal energy simply is, you know, fire. You know, when we light a fire, what comes off is thermal energy. But we also have the chemical transference that turns the wood to ash. But that's what that is. But if we continue a little bit on about how we perceive energy and work with energy on a physics base, we have dealing with something called quantum. The lowest bit of measurable matter is that of a quantum, such as an atom would be a quantum. Molecules would be the step above the quantum, and or plural is quanta. And it actually is the Latin word for how much. So how much are we dealing with? Things like that. So now I'm kind of just running through the physics section because, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not quite good with physics. But that is how a lot of modern people, not necessarily religious-based, will deal with energy through physics. How it's measured through all of that. Electromagnetic fields, things such as that. But let's get down to more of the religious-based form of it. The more,
Pause.
yes?
We lost the connection.
Is it back yet?
Attempting to reconnect. The local sound is still
Recording?
recording. Okay, we're good.
Okay, all right. So a little bit of a hiccup there with the connection, but we should be okay. Well, quite happy about that, because that means we're done with physics, which I didn't think I gave too much justice to, but hopefully we'll be able to send some links out there that will actually help better explain that form. But let's delve into the witchcraft, if you will, the pagan ideas behind energy. And all the different ideas of energy can be summed up by put into these three different types of belief systems. They are animism, pantheism, and panentheism. And these are the three different philosophies, if you will, that actually tell us where energy is coming from. What is the source of all energy? Animism says that everything is alive. It's just what it sounds like. Everything is animated. Everything is alive. So in animism, one believes that energy comes from, well, everything. I wouldn't call it necessarily a random experience, but it would be something that if everything is alive, everything is doing work. So therefore energy is being expelled on a scientific level. But because it is all alive, everything is alive, it exists, everything is divine, in a sense. Nature, plants, animals, such, what we do, then they are creating energy, and it's kind of a sharing basis of how life force works. But then we have pantheism, which means if you are relating to nature and the universe, you're relating to God, to the divine. In other words, if you are experiencing nature, experiencing the universe, then you are experiencing God, because that means God, or the divine, is everything. Okay? As opposed to panentheism, which means that everything exists within God. There is or deity. There is an overarching power that allows everything to exist within it. As opposed to pantheism, which says that God is everything. God is nature. God is the universe. So it is believed that these, all of the forms of energy workings I'll be going through will fall into one of these categories. And the challenge I present to you now is to figure out which categories they fall into. Again, the categories are animism, pantheism, and panentheism. Okay. So now let's talk about something. The section of the first chapter that I'm going through right now is Metaphysical Vocabulary. Okay, and we'll begin first with the ancient times through the 17th century. And it's very basic, because we will begin with the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans, which we will consider the quote-unquote classical age for energy. And a lot of people believe that the way life works would depend upon things called sympathies, powers, and virtues. Sympathies are pretty much polarities, in a sense, how different things interact and legitimately sympathize with one another. work well with one another. For instance, light and dark, male and female, or more aptly, masculine and feminine, not necessarily gender, but masculine and feminine, things like that. The powers simply are, the powers that be, what runs. That requires a bit more research. It wasn't too much I was able to dig out about powers, so if anybody has information about the ancient Greek powers, please do share them with us. But it really comes down to the virtues, and it begins with the golden mean, which is kind of, I believe it was either Aristotle or Socrates that professed the golden mean, which is pretty much live life in medium, in a sense. If everything is done based upon an average, a mean, an average, that means your life is balanced, your energies are balanced. For instance, between your food consumption, don't overindulge in, say, alcohol. Don't become drunk every day, but it's okay to have a glass of wine with dinner. But at the same time, don't let your bile rise. Don't become angry so often. You are allowed to become angry at somebody, but don't just all of a sudden explode. If your energies are centered and even, then you're living within the golden mean. However, if you find yourself more volatile, if you find yourself extra sad, if you find yourself overindulging in consumable things, then you are not living within the golden mean, according to the ancient Romans. Is there anything out there?
We need to stop for a second and then start again because nobody's getting what you're talking about.
Huh?